We should have stayed away. But hey, we were kids. We thought we were immortal, but we were wrong. The electric witch lived in a hut about half a mile into the woods at the edge of town. She can occasionally be seen strutting the edges of the tree line, muttering nonsense to herself. She had earned the nickname, the Electric Witch, from her clothing. On top of her thinning, ragged blonde hair, she wore a plastic helmet with dozens of multicolored wires that protruded from the top and dangled down like hair. She wore a black vest in which she had embedded a cutout of an X-ray film that showcased someone's ribcage. Naturally, this drew the attention and fascination and sometimes ire of the kids in the neighborhood. Chief among these was Sam Weston. He was one of those kids born with a natural instinct to seek out those who were different from the herd and punish them. It was his idea to break into the Electric Witch's hut. "I just want to look around," he said, in between bites of another kid's baked potato. "Maybe take some pictures." The lunchroom was noisy, but even so, Sam was talking too loud. "Don't be stupid," I said more quietly. "You're going to get arrested." "Arrested?" said Sam. "It's not even illegal. It's not like that crazy witch owns that shack. She only lives there. We have just as much right to go in as she does. It's still a stupid idea. What if she catches you? She's crazy. There's no telling what she'll do to you." "Yeah," said Sam. "That's why I'm not going alone. You're coming with me." I flicked one of the soggy cafeteria french fries at him, but he dodged it. "Fat chance," I said. "If my mom finds out about that, she'd ground me to the apocalypse, and then some." "Huh?" said Sam. "You'd think she'd be more upset that her son's a chicken." The table fell silent. The expectant eyes of my peers all turned toward me, and I knew there was nothing for it. Sam had invoked the C word, and I knew that I had no chance but to follow him on this stupid quest. It was either that, or face the ridicule of my peers forever. Timothy Jenkins had once refused to eat a hot pepper in the 2nd grade. We were in the 5th grade now, and people still squawked at him in the hallways. "Fine," I said through gritted teeth. Then I flicked another french fry at him. This time, I hit him squarely in the face. Years later, I would regret doing that. I should have been nicer, I would tell myself. But of course, I had no way of knowing what was coming. We were at the edge of the woods, and already I was regretting my decision. The sky was still gray, and the smell of rain was in the air. The atmosphere was pricked with electricity, and a storm was on its way. The trees were so tall up close, trying to look at the tops made the ground tilt and shift beneath me. "Scared, huh?" said Sam. "No," I lied. My heart flopped over like a beach fish. I didn't look at the other kids, afraid they would see the fear in my face. "I am not a chicken." "Yeah, sure," said Sam. He rolled his eyes. "Keep sweating like that, and soon you'll be standing in a puddle." "You'll be standing in a puddle when we run into the witch," I shot back. "But it won't be sweat." To my surprise, Sam laughed. "All right," he said. "That was pretty good, but we're wasting time. Let's go." He clapped me hard on the back, and I stumbled forward into the trees. I had just regained my balance when I saw him jogging in front of me. "You coming?" he hollered back, and followed by 2 squawks. I sighed, swallowed my fear, and started after him. We reached the witch's hut in 15 minutes. The wind had picked up by then, and the forest came alive with the rustling sounds of swaying tree branches. "What if she's home?" I whisper-talked, just loudly enough to be heard over the whistling wind. "Then maybe she'll bake us some cookies," Sam said. He did not wait for my retort, but strode confidently to the door. "Hello, Miss Crazy Witch," he said. "We're here for your world-famous chocolate chip cookies." My breath froze in my throat as I watched. Slowly, the door creaked open, revealing the Electric Witch. She said nothing, only blinked twice. Her mouth twitched. She looked at me, mumbled some nonsense under her breath. Finally, she stepped aside to let us in. Reluctantly, I followed Sam into the shack. The inside of the shack was a fever dream. The walls were rust-stained, corrugated iron, as was the roof, and the whole thing looked like it could collapse at any moment. But you could barely even see the walls through all the junk that she had lined them. There was microscopes, wire racks of test tubes, a 50-gallon plastic drum of dirty hypodermic needles. There were jars of pickled animals, frogs, sea urchins, and fetal pigs, and jars of pickled organs, hearts, livers, and 2 brains. X-ray films hung like portraits in homemade frames made with dead, lichen-spotted tree branches. One in particular caught my eye. It was a picture of a brain with a golf-sized mass on the middle of the left side. The witch caught me looking. She tapped the side of her head and then pointed to one of the jars of organs. Inside, suspended in murky green fluid, was a fleshy gray glob of brain tissue. I clenched my jaw in fierce determination not to vomit. The witch smiled. Then she spoke. "Sit," she said, gesturing to a fold-out cardboard checkers table in the center of the room, with 4 mismatched placed chairs around it. Sam and I sat. The witch sat down too, and flashed us a yellow gap-toothed smile. "So nice to have visitors," she said. "Would you like some tea?" I looked around, but nowhere did I see a tea kettle, or a stove for that matter. "No thanks," I said. The witch bobbed her head in acknowledgement. "Well, what can I do for you handsome young boys today?" Before I could answer, Sam puffed out a sigh of exasperation. "You've got to be kidding me," he said. "Pardon?" asked the witch. "We came here to see a crazy old witch, and all we get is a boring old lady. What am I supposed to tell my friends?" The witch's smile faltered, and a look of hurt flashed across her face. It was gone in a moment, once again replaced by a smile. This time, there was something different about her smile. It did not reach her eyes. She leaned forward and spoke in a low voice. "Well, it just so happens," she said, "that I am a witch." "Oh yeah?" said Sam. "Prove it." The witch's smile widened, and her eyes took on a nasty gleam. "Sam," I said, "I don't think we should—" "Shut up, Pencil Nick," said Sam. The witch laughed. "Nothing to worry about, young man," she said. "In fact, your friend should be excited. I have a very special gift for him." "You do?" said Sam. His expression was guarded, but the eagerness in his voice betrayed him. "Oh, yes," said the witch. "I'll show you." She stood up and went to the corner of the shack. She squatted down next to the heavy-looking cauldron of black iron and removed the lid. She reached down and pulled something out before replacing the heavy metal lid with a thunk. When she turned around, we saw it, a small crystal that glowed blue in the dimness of the shack. She rummaged through a drawer and pulled out an old locket. She unlatched the pendant and placed the crystal inside, then turned around and handed it to Sam, who snatched it away with greedy fingers. "That is a very special amulet," she said. "It will bring good fortune to the bearer. With that amulet, you could rule the world someday." "Oh yeah?" said Sam. "What's the catch?" "No catch," replied the witch. "Only rules. The first rule is that before you go to bed each night, you must take the crystal out and kiss it very gently. Mind, or you may break it. The second rule is that you may not let anybody else wear it, or your luck will transfer to them. The third rule is that you must never take it off." By the time she had finished with the rules, Sam had already draped the locket around his neck. "Hey, I guess you're not so bad after all," he said. He had no idea. The next day, at recess, we were rock stars. Not only had we ventured into the forest and met the electric witch, but we had returned with a souvenir. The amulet was passed from eager hand to eager hand, so that everybody else could see the glowing blue crystal within. Sam wouldn't let anybody else wear it, just like the witch had advised, but he was charging $2 a pop to let kids kiss it for good luck. I watched the whole thing with a growing sense of uneasiness. "Are you sure you should be doing that?" I asked Sam. He shrugged. The witch didn't say I couldn't. I shook my head and walked away. I wanted no part of this. The next day was when things began to go wrong. The first thing I noticed was that at our lunch table, 2 students were missing, Randall Evans and Jacob Culver. In fact, the lunchroom seemed a lot less noisy than usual, and as I looked around, I realized that it was because our table wasn't the only table missing students. Almost all of them were. Sam was here, but he looked like he hadn't slept all night. His skin was ragged and pale, and heavy dark circles rested beneath his eyes. "Hey, are you alright?" I asked him. "I'm fine," he snapped, sounding more tired than angry. "Really? Because you don't look—" I was interrupted by a torrent of green vomit that erupted from Sam's mouth, splashing all over the table. Everyone at the table shut up and gaped at Sam, who had risen to his feet and was now tottering dangerously back and forth. "I told you," he said. "I've never felt better." That was the last thing he said before his body crumpled to the floor like wet tissue paper. "Nurse!" I called, unthinking. "Nurse!" I yelled until Miss Hutch, the school nurse, came bustling up, puffing as her fat cheeks turned red. She bent over Sam's prostrate figure. He was groaning softly and clutching the amulet, which lay beneath his shirt. Miss Hutch lifted his shirt. There was a sharp intake of breath, and then Miss Hutch said, "Oh my Lord." The amulet lay across Sam's chest. Behind it, and all around it, the skin had turned black. Miss Hutch yanked it off his neck, breaking the chain. She opened the locket, and for the first time ever, I hear her swear. Sam was dead. After he collapsed at school, Miss Hutch called 911, and the ambulance rushed him off to the hospital. He succumbed to his sickness 3 days later. The cause of death was ruled as radiation poisoning, the glowing blue crystal having been sent off to the physics department of the local university and positively identified as cesium chloride. Police searched the witch's shack, but there was no sign of her. They said, judging by the medical waste in her apartment, she probably got the cesium from an old abandoned cancer clinic where the radiotherapy machines had not been properly disposed of. Over the next week, 17 more kids were hospitalized. 4 died. The rest of us were put in quarantine and screened for radiation sickness. After a few days, they let us go. The witch was never found. The mayor and the city councilors all agreed that the story should not be reported on, out of respect for the families, and that any journalist who violated the blanket of silence would prove themselves an enemy of decency. I'm pretty sure they just didn't want the bad publicity. I really wish there was a more satisfying end to this story, that the witch was caught and punished for what she did. I wish that Sam hadn't let anybody else touch that amulet. Most of all, I wish that I had never seen that damn electric witch in the first place. Maybe then I would have led a normal life. Instead, I'm 24 years old and sitting in the hospital for my 3rd lung cancer surgery. If there's a moral to the story, I sure as hell don't know what it is. Except that maybe the world is a cruel, dangerous place where we suffer for the sins of others. Anyway, I've got nothing else to say, except the end. Thanks for joining us around the campfire. If you enjoyed the story, subscribe below. Also, hit that notification bell to be notified of our new stories as they are posted. If you have a story you'd like to share for narration, submit it via email, and you may be hearing your story next. Our email address is in the description box below. Thank you, and good night.